Hi there folks, welcome back to Rich Reviews. So my latest film for you guys here now debuted at Fantasia Fest last year, and this is the second film from Liza Capehart, and who co-writes the feature following film here. It's called Slaxx, spelled S-L-A-X-X. Now if you're thinking to yourself, how can you make killer Slaxx work? Now, there's always been a history of inanimate objects coming to life and killing people. Most infamously, there was a film from almost a decade ago called Rubber about a killer tire, and that had basically a director come on screen early on in the process, basically exclaiming, "Why not make a film about a killer tire?" Trust me, folks, I hated that film with an absolute passion. Slaxx at least knows it's goofy to begin with, and so maybe that has points going for it. Basically, a girl named Libby, and this actress has very few credits to her name, and most of these people in this film, with the exception of a couple of people, have almost no credits to their name, and maybe that's a good thing, I don't know. Maybe they can say to themselves years later, on Inside the Actors Studio, "Oh yeah, I was in that killer film named Slaxx." And if this film were made in the 1990s, it'd probably be distributed by Trauma Pictures or some other B-level company, and you would just find this thing in the middle of your local video store, and you may or may not rent it, and you'd just be like, "Oh yeah, this thing is worth my time on a Friday night and a pizza." So a girl named Libby, as I said, basically it's like, hooray, I'm working at this high-end, retail store, exclaims better business practices, has a fancy slogan, and apparently in the middle of this film, a high-end YouTuber basically does clothes for a living. Apparently there are YouTubers that do clothes. But of course it has to be a female because no sulfur-spitting guy wants to try on clothes for a living. He usually does news or does YouTube reviews of movies. And also the fact here is, these people have to work the night shift because, hey look, the grand opening or the grand sale of these Slaxx go on sale the next day. Let me state that my mother had a friend whose kid had to work the night shift, worked from like 3 o'clock in the morning till about noon the next day, several days a week, and that was tiring. I can't imagine going to a retail store and working the night shift. Killer pair of pants, basically come after the people one by one. Really, what else is there to say? And basically, oh yeah, we come to learn why the pants are killing, and it basically has to do with the fact that this company doesn't practice what it preaches. Oh dear heaven. And basically, when Libby goes to the manager of the store, he's the first dead body, he reacts in a nonchalant way, and that's a sign that guy's been working in the same store for far too long. And he's like, "Yes, do you want your first month off free?" It's also like, I don't want this to impact me in not becoming a regional manager. I couldn't envision myself working at any retail store. I worked at Blockbuster, and trust me, working at Blockbuster during those last years early was boring as heck some days. We do get a tragic backstory of how these pants became possessed. There's also a female Indian worker there, and when we come to learn that this thing likes Bollywood music. How utterly ironic that is. Oh, hardy har har. Now this thing is also being distributed by Shudder. And let me confess, I plan to review more Shudder films in the future, but they literally have to be better than this, folks. Although, let's face it, the sight of killer Slaxx, okay. I mean, again, and also let me state for the record that I have problems with any film that's less than 80 minutes long, because any film that's less than 80 minutes long is not a complete film. This film runs a skinny 69 minutes long. I think 69 minutes long is appropriate for a killer pair of pants. Or unless James Gunn happens to see this film and get some bright idea about, okay, how could I extend this film from being 69 minutes long to about 90? And so, and again, ends in basically that usual way of how most horror film ends. Folks, in the end, what I'm going to say about Slaxx, I'm going to give this a Netflix ranking because, let's face it, I don't want to populate my worst of the year list with horror films because that's just not something I want to do. So folks, Slaxx, have you seen this? What did you think? Please put everything in the comment box below here, folks. I'm on Twitter at Michael Richard Reviews 2. I'll see you next time, folks. Yes, hooray.